Is the winter solstice important to Irish paganism? Well, Dagdi Agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School. And I suppose to get right to it, neat answer, not hard to say, yes, the winter solstice is pretty important for Irish paganism. And a lot of Irish culture, from our ancient ancestors through to the more agricultural forms of our development as a society, have been based around the seasons and the cycles, one of the core points of which is the winter solstice. So, the winter solstice is the time of year where the daylight is at its shortest and the night is at its longest. It is the darkest night of the year. It is caused because of the orbits of our planet and the axial tilt of our planet around our nearest star. So, the form and flow of our rotation and then how we cycle around the sun. Now, how it's observed in Ireland, we can trace that back thousands of years, literally thousands of years, with new sites like Knockrow and, of course, the very famous Newgrange monument at Brúna. Now, what happens on dawn of the winter solstice is the alignment of the rotation of the earth as we kind of spin back towards the day. That first rays of sunshine shine directly through a small opening created in the passage tomb, which is Newgrange. And on this pretty much one or two night mornings, one or I think it's maybe three mornings a year, this natural light shines right the way into the passage tomb and illuminates it on the inside. Now, this is thousands of years old. In fact, the Newgrange at Brúna is older than the pyramids on the plateau of Giza in Egypt. So it shows that our ancient ancestors not only had a knowledge of the rotations or the return of the lights or the cycles of our planet, but they had enough mathematical and technological processes to build a vast monument to honor that. And so when we talk about solstices, it is very important to our culture and our spirituality in the island, as we can see from the actions of our ancient ancestors. Now, there are kind of two cycles and cycles that we talk about when we're expressing paganism in Ireland and Irish culture. And a big part of a lot of I've learned this is from my partner Laura, but also from the information and manuscripts that I have been studying and learning from since I've developed my connection with Ireland's spirituality and native spirituality, or paganism is another word. And so we have the fire festivals, which is Imbolc, Bealtaine, Lunasa, and Samhain. And so those form four major points of our calendar year. But then the other 4 points, which we do kind of acknowledge as well, are of course the solstices and the equinoxes. So the equinox is when, of course, equal night, equal day, you get this equity between night and day. But then, of course, you have the summer solstice where the day is the longest and the night is shortest. And then, of course, the winter solstice where the day is the shortest and the night is the longest. When it comes to the winter solstice, as much as we have ancient information, we can point at the passage tombs, we can say that our ancestors acknowledged or were aware of the importance of this returning solar cycle. Can we say for sure that it guarantees that there was some form of solar spiritual belief or cult or worship, solar rebirth, solar deities in Ireland? No, not for sure. There is a lot of crossover between various pantheons and faiths around the world, and people like Julius Caesar in their conquest of Europe was looking at the various different spiritual expressions and going, okay, well, Apollo is a sun god, and this person is kind of linked with the sun, so they're a sun god too, and that's where we get the whole Lu, the Irish god Lu, being linked with the sun because he's said to be sun-faced in some of the stories, but it's an allegory for him being a good-looking guy, nothing got to do with the sun. If anyone has authority over the sun, it's actually the Dagda, because we see in the stories where he takes up the power over life and death and how he got his magic club, he refers to his authority over the sun. We see him actually use it in the birth of Angus Og, where he stops the sun in the sky so that 9 months passes a day. So Boann, the goddess for the River Boyne and the whole Boyne Valley area there, um, can conceive and deliver the child born all in a 9 month day. So if you're looking for any form of solar aligned deity, it's not Lu, it is actually the Dagda. But he's not just aligned with the sun, he also has authority over the moon. He has authority over the land, he has authority over the sea. Not Sky. He's not a Sky Daddy, a Sky Father. Different video on that if you're interested in more. But this does mean that this cycle of light and dark, this day and night, this rotation and process is part of Irish spirituality and therefore part of Irish paganism. Whether you acknowledge deities or not in your practices, the organic, natural routines and rotas of the world is something that can be worked with around this particular time. An example of stuff that my partner actually has been doing for more than 25 years now is holding vigil throughout the darkest night. So what they do is they settle in as soon as the sun goes down on the darkest night. They light a fire, either candles or a hearth fire, and then they keep that light burning throughout the entire dark night while they stay awake and they hold a vigil. While the world sleeps through the darkest times, someone is awake and someone is watching. And that is what my partner has done for 2.5 decades now. Um, I try and stay up where I can, that they don't expect it at all, but I'm also more, I'll take the rest where I can, and then the next day I'll make sure that they get complete rest and they have to do absolutely nothing the following day, which is honoring the balance and of those processes. And I think when we talk about and think about the winter solstice, uh, a lot of people might think, oh, well, it's the dark night of the soul, it's the longest nighttime, and it's all dark and dreary. There is a great potential within those dark, still moments of our life. And just because something is dark doesn't mean it's evil, doesn't mean it's terrible or scary. It might just be this moment of stillness, that darkness behind your eyes when you close your eyelids, those places in between your breaths where you kind of stop what you need to be doing for other people and just be within the moment. And for me, winter solstice, this longest dark night, is these moments of self-reflection, introspection, looking inwards as opposed to looking outwards, addressing any internal stuff, shadow work or processes or self-conscious stuff, addressing yourself internally so that you align yourself better with whatever future you want to cultivate once the darkest night has passed. Because a lot of the flows and the routines here is, of course, about the rebirth of the sun, the returning of the sun on the morning of the solstice. And so, how do we prepare for what follows? How do we prepare for this renewal, these cycles, if we don't actually take time to stop and review and to look back and to assess where we are, where we have come from, and embrace the potential of what is going to follow from the future? I've had great conversations recently with members of the Pagan Life Arts community and also with our TUA in our online social media spaces and online Zoom meetings, talking about what is it that people do. Some people go out and they gather items for their craft during the darkness of the solstice because it's full with potential energy. Other people, make sure that they settle down internally, they don't go anywhere, that they engage in some form of guided journey, meditation. Some people journal and create a list and kind of take the time to look back on where they have come from and document their processes so that they have a clear head, clear process going forward once the sunlight comes back. Whatever it is you actually do, there is no right, there is no wrong, but it is about acknowledging the fact that there is a shift and a change and a process, a moment here where you can take time to be intentional about yourself, about your well-being, about your spirituality, and whatever you need to do for yourself. And the winter solstice is a great one for that. There is no planting to be done at this time. There's no harvesting to be done at this time. There's no cultivation to be done. There's nothing like that at all. It is a time for quiet, stillness, darkness, and reflection. So, how important is the winter solstice to Irish paganism? It's pretty important. I'm going to put a link to Laura's blog post that she wrote a while ago about it. I think it's last year's one, but all of the information is still very valid and very relevant there. If you'd like to know more about Irish paganism, spirituality, mythology, culture, a lot. We have a whole year's worth of free resources and more at irishpagan.school/free. And as ever, check out the rest of the information that we have on irishpaganschool.com, the classes that we have there. And yeah, look after yourself, take care, and don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the introspection that can happen when we take our time and take our moments to do it. Because as our ancestors have always known, and as we have always acknowledged as people, the sun will return and the dawn will carry on to the next day. Look after yourself. Take care. August Long. Goodbye.